Anthropic, the company behind Claude, one of the world's most capable AI models, just announced they're not just building AI anymore, they're using it to develop actual pharmaceutical drugs. Yes, you read that right. An AI startup founded to make large language models is now venturing into biotech. But here's what makes this wild. Anthropic's move into drug development isn't some random side project. It's a calculated bet that Claude, the same AI you've probably used for writing emails or debugging code, is powerful enough to accelerate one of the slowest, most expensive processes in human history, discovering and developing new medicines. Drug development typically takes 10 to 15 years and costs between $1 billion and $3 billion. It's a grinding, expensive slog that kills most projects before they reach patients. But what if AI could cut that timeline in half? What if it could cut costs by 30 or 40%? That's the bet Anthropic is making. The company isn't the first to use AI for drug discovery. Pfizer, Novartis, and a dozen other pharma giants already have AI divisions. But Anthropic building their own drug company is different. They're not just licensing out Claude to hospitals or research labs. They're going all in, using their AI to identify drug targets, run simulations, and predict how chemicals will behave. And it could change medicine forever. To understand why Anthropic is going into pharmaceuticals, you have to understand what Claude can actually do. Claude isn't just a chatbot, it's a reasoning engine. You can feed it millions of research papers, everything humanity knows about protein folding, molecular chemistry, disease pathways, and Claude can find patterns that humans miss. It can suggest new combinations. It can predict outcomes. It's like giving a drug scientist a superpower to process decades of research in minutes instead of months. Anthropic's core mission is to build AI that's safe, interpretable, and aligned with human values. Applying that to medicine is a natural extension. If you're going to trust AI to help humanity, healthcare is ground zero. The timing matters too. We are in the middle of an AI boom. Every major tech company, Google, Meta, Microsoft, is racing to show that their AI model has real-world impact beyond chatbots and code. Being first to announce a successful AI-discovered drug would be a massive milestone. It would prove that AI isn't just a novelty. It's a tool that can literally save lives. Plus, there's huge money in pharmaceuticals. Drug companies are worth hundreds of billions of dollars. The best-selling drugs generate billions in annual revenue. If Anthropic can cut drug development time and cost, even slightly, it's a business opportunity that dwarfs everything else they've done. This isn't charity, it's strategic. Anthropic sees an opportunity to prove their AI can create real economic value while solving a genuine human problem. So how exactly is Claude being used to discover new drugs? The process breaks into a few key stages. First, there's target identification. You need to identify what protein you're targeting. It's like finding the weak point in a system. Claude scans millions of academic papers and clinical data, identifies connections between genes, proteins, and diseases, and proposes new drug targets humans might miss. Second is molecular design. You need chemicals that interact with your target in the right way. Claude models how molecules bind to proteins, predicts their properties, and suggests modifications. Think of it like 3D chess with chemistry, Claude playing millions of moves simultaneously. Third is safety prediction. You could have the perfect drug in theory, but if it's toxic or causes side effects, it's worthless. Claude analyzes how compounds interact with the human body, predicts adverse reactions, and flags potential problems before animal testing. Fourth is process optimization. Even if you've designed the perfect drug, manufacturing might be impossible or wildly expensive. Claude optimizes the synthesis pathway, figuring out how to make it cheaper and faster in the lab. All these stages typically take months or years with traditional methods. Claude can do much of it in days or weeks. That's the acceleration Anthropic is betting on. Now this is where most companies get cagey about their actual work. But Anthropic has been surprisingly open. Their initial focus is rare genetic diseases and neglected tropical diseases. Rare genetic diseases are perfect for AI because patient populations are small, data is limited, and traditional pharma ignores them for profit reasons. There are thousands of rare genetic diseases with no treatments. With AI, you don't need a massive market to make economics work. If Claude finds even one effective treatment for a rare disease, you've helped thousands who previously had absolutely no hope. Neglected tropical diseases like dengue fever, tuberculosis, and parasitic infections mostly affect people in low-income countries. Big Pharma ignores them. There's no profit to be made. A dengue treatment that saves 1 million lives might only generate a few $100 million. Not worth it to a corporation. But if Anthropic can find treatments quickly and cheaply using AI, suddenly those diseases become commercially viable targets. Here's what's interesting. This is brilliant PR. Using AI to help rare disease patients and tropical disease victims in the developing world positions Anthropic as humanity-focused. It's genius. It's also a proof of concept. Solve one major, rare disease drug, and you've got credibility to tackle more commercial targets. But here's where it gets complicated. Anthropic's model is different from how other major tech companies have approached drug development. Google acquired DeepMind, which used AI to predict protein structures, a genuine scientific breakthrough. But Google didn't become a drug company. DeepMind proved the AI could solve a hard problem, then handed the tools to actual pharmaceutical companies. Microsoft has invested heavily in AI for biotech and signed partnerships with companies like Genmab to apply AI to antibody discovery. But Microsoft is providing the technology platform. They're not running the experiments themselves or managing clinical trials. Anthropic's doing something bolder. They're not just licensing Claude to pharmaceutical partners. They're building an actual pharmaceutical division. They're going to run the research, run the experiments, and ultimately bring drugs to market themselves. That's a massive structural difference. Why does that matter? For one, Anthropic will own the entire value chain. If they discover a drug using Claude that's worth billions, they won't split profits with a partner company. It's theirs entirely. But there's risk too. Running a pharma company is vastly harder than running an AI company. It requires clinical trials, regulatory approvals from governments, manufacturing expertise, distribution networks, and complex supply chains. Anthropic has never done any of this before. They're essentially building a startup pharma company from scratch while simultaneously managing an AI research division. And here's the thing nobody's talking about yet. So what actually happens if Anthropic succeeds? If they can prove that AI discovers new drugs faster and cheaper than traditional methods, it changes everything. Drug development is one of the most conservative industries on the planet. It moves slowly and hasn't changed in decades. But if Anthropic cracks it, if they get a drug through clinical trials and FDA approval in 3 or 4 years instead of 10, every pharma company on Earth panics. They'll be forced to adopt AI. They'll need to hire hundreds of AI researchers. They'll need to retrain scientists. The competitive advantage will be enormous. The first company to succeed will develop drugs 3 times faster than competitors. That's not just a better business model, it's an extinction-level threat to slower pharma companies. But here's where it gets interesting for regular people. If drug development timelines shrink from 10 to 15 years down to 5 to 7 years, treatments reach patients faster. Someone with a rare genetic disease that used to mean a lifetime sentence might get a cure in the next decade instead of never. That's not small. Then there's the cost angle. If AI cuts drug development costs by 50%, medicine prices should theoretically fall. New treatments might become affordable. Governments might negotiate better prices. Healthcare economics could change dramatically. This is bigger than just Anthropic winning the pharma race. So what does this mean for you? If you're watching this as someone interested in AI or tech, Anthropic's pharmaceutical move is a signal that AI is graduating from experimental to real-world impact. This isn't hype anymore. This is actual value creation in an industry that's been waiting for disruption for 50 years. If you work in biotech or pharmaceutical research, you should be learning about Claude right now. The skills gap between researchers who understand AI and those who don't is about to become a career-defining factor. Companies are going to start hiring for AI capability. The days of pure chemistry or biology expertise being enough are ending. If you have a rare disease or someone you love does, this is worth paying attention to. Anthropic's investments might lead to treatments that didn't exist 6 months ago. Follow their announcements. Most rare disease communities are small. Word travels fast when there's hope. If you're an investor or startup founder, watch this closely. Anthropic just showed that the border between software and healthcare can be crossed. That means there are probably dozens of other industries that AI hasn't disrupted yet but could. Medicine was a protected space. Now it's open. Here's the reality. We are at an inflection point. AI went from academic papers to language models to now actually discovering medicine. The implications are still sinking in, and nobody's ready for what comes next. Look, the big story here isn't just that Anthropic's going into pharma. It's that we are watching the boundaries between industries dissolve. Software companies are becoming pharmaceutical companies. AI models are becoming biotech researchers. The old categories don't hold anymore. What matters now is execution. Anthropic has shown they can build great AI, but building great drugs is completely different. They need to recruit people with pharma experience. They need to navigate regulatory systems. They need to win clinical trials. That's the hard part. Over the next 18 to 24 months, watch for Anthropic's first drug announcements. If they announce they're entering human trials for something within 2 years, that's a signal that AI drug discovery actually works. If it takes them longer, it might mean AI's role is more limited than the hype suggests. Also watch the legacy pharma companies. If they start aggressively acquiring AI biotech startups or building their own AI divisions, that's a confirmation that this isn't a gimmick. When Pfizer and Novartis panic, you'll know Anthropic hit on something real. The drugs being developed right now won't cure cancer tomorrow. But the infrastructure being built, Claude analyzing medical research at scale, AI models predicting drug behavior, silicon-driven science, that's the foundation of the next 20 years of medicine. Follow Anthropic's announcements. Follow for more AI news that changes how we live.